Welcome to Blue Sky Bio's video tutorials. In these live demonstrations, you'll be able to see our new products. This is Blue Sky Bio's new Crestal Sinus Lift Kit. It comes in a covered box with an upper and lower compartment. The upper compartment has the drills and stops, the lower has the instruments with stops. At the top compartment, which has the surgical instruments and stops necessary to perform the osteotomy. You'll notice that there is a 2 millimeter initial osteotomy burr. This little flange here is the area that catches the stops, as well as a 2.4 millimeter safe-sided osteotomy extender, a 2.8 millimeter safe-sided osteotomy extender, a 3.2 millimeter safe-sided osteotomy extender, and a 3.6 millimeter safe-sided osteotomy extender. All of these work, these safe-sided osteotomy extenders work by creating a little plug of bone at the top so you can't really perforate the sinus. The instruments that are in the base of the surgical kit have specific functions. These are sinus probes. You can see that there's a ball end at the end of each one. So you can go into the osteotomy and check to make sure that you have, in fact, not completed your osteotomy and lifted the sinus yet. If you put it in and you feel a little bit of a bounce, you'll know that you've already gotten to the point where the membrane is exposed and lifted. They have two diameters to them, one side of them. One side of the sinus probe is 2.2 millimeters. And the other side of the sinus probe is 2.5 millimeters. That I'd like to talk about is actually quite important. It's the bone compactor. It also has two sides. One is 3 millimeters and one is 2.2. You'll notice it also has a stopper mechanism on it. And this is actually quite important because one of the major ways that people end up perforating is when they are applying the condenser into the osteotomy. It slips and suddenly forces its way very, very quickly, full length, into the sinus, and then the edges will perforate the sinus. By using a stopper on it, they create a stop form so that it's a safety. This is the next instrument I'd like to discuss. It looks like an amalgam plugger, but it's actually stainless steel and it's quite hefty. It's used to pick up bone graft material and then force it into the osteotomy. The compacted bone graft material can then be forced by the pluggers and lift the sinus up. So this is Freddie. Fred didn't pay his bill, so he donated his jaw to science instead. And what we're going to do is we're going to try to perform an osteotomy on this plastic teaching model in the appropriate position. We're going to start with the 2 millimeter osteotomy burr, and as you can see it has a clip for the drill stop on it. Because the estimated depth of the sinus here is about 9 millimeters or so, 9 to 10 millimeters, I'm going to start a couple of millimeters above just for safety purposes, and I'm going to use the 7 millimeter stop, as you see here. We're going to begin our osteotomy in the second premolar region. I'm going to try to center it and use the suitable appropriate angulation. And we have the beginning of our 2 millimeter osteotomy here to a depth of 7 millimeters. Again, our stopper prevents us from going any deeper. We're going to check the depth with the sinus probe, and we are still have not elevated it yet. So, as you can see, we've started our osteotomy pretty well centered. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace the 2 millimeter regular osteotomy burr inside, and I'm going to take the 2.4 out. I'm going to load it into the Blue Sky Bio. Okay, here is the 8 millimeter stopper in place. We have a millimeter to go. Again, our depth stop prevents us from going any deeper than we sinus probe using the appropriate diameter, and we're still solid and haven't lifted the membrane yet. Now the 9mm stop in place. You have 1 millimeter to go. We have performed our osteotomy. We're going to check our depth, and we're still solid. We have our 10mm stop in place. We're going to insert it, the instrument. We have 1 millimeter to go. We're going to check our membrane, make sure it's okay, and we have lifted. You can feel the rubbery surface of the membrane. Now, one of the things we can do is we can turn, which we can't do on a real patient, is I can put the membrane tester in place, lift it up, and you can see maybe, there we go. So we lifted the membrane up inside. You can see the difference between this little bump right here and the other side where that's clean. So we have achieved lift at 10 millimeters, and now we've been able to lift the sinus membrane at 10 millimeters. It's time to go to the next size drill, which would be 2.8 millimeters in the Blue Sky Bio surgical handpiece system, the X Cube, and put the same 10 millimeter stopper on top of the drill, safe-sided drill. And again, the safe-sided, the stopper prevents us from perforating. Check our membrane, make sure it's okay. We've now loaded the 3.2 safe-sided sinus reamer profile drill, sinus reamer drill, and we're placing the 10 millimeter stop on it again, and we're ready to increase the size of our osteotomy to 3.2 millimeters. Check our membrane, make sure it's okay. I think we have enough buccal and lingual thickness to go ahead and increase the size of the osteotomy to 3.6 millimeters, which is the final available size. Handpiece. Place the stop on the safe-sided reamer and go forward with our next osteotomy. Again, the safe-sided drill keeps us okay, and there's our final osteotomy, and now we're ready to go ahead and do our bone graft.